mum and dad, they're right into the bush. They took us tramping as kids, and so we just got raised in the bush. Trees that are damaged, mawiwi, they're a bit sick, they will often display mushrooms coming out the sides of them. The mushrooms will live on the dead wood of the tree, and so it's our job as bushmen there's a huru layer in the bush, the curly ferns that cover papatonuku. If they aren't present, the leaf litter that falls onto the ground and that would otherwise make soil and nutrients for the tree can get washed away in the rain down into the rivers. So what we need to do is, the classroom's not the best classroom for everyone, and I literally want the mischief ones. A lot of those ones that have just got all that energy, one of the best places for them is in the bush, right? Because we can use that energy. Like, we'll load you up with trap boxes, we'll send you up big steep hills. Let's go. Mandate.
Hi everyone, if you are enjoying the content and the guests that are on the podcast and you're wanting more, then please do us a favor. If you can just press the subscribe button, that would be an amazing help for us. But also, just want to mention an amazing organization called AOK, who sponsors the Mandate podcast. And so they are an organization that runs suicide prevention, intervention, and wellbeing programs. And so AOK stands for Acts of Kindness. And so you didn't need me to tell you about the alarmingly high rates of suicide in our nation, especially amongst our rangatahi, our young people, even our tane, our men. And so if you're wanting to stand in the gap and you want to be well trained and well equipped to have these courageous life supporting conversations, then please check them out, aok.nz. If you're a business, a company, or a collective, or even as an individual, check them out, www.aok.nz. You could very well be that one person to help save a life. Welcome to Mandate, where we navigate fresh perspectives and nothing is off the table. Tonight's guest is not from Tāmaki Makaurau. In fact, our guest is from the beautiful East Coast, Tarawhiti, Gizzy Gisborne. He's an incredible individual who happens to be a trapper and also a conservation worker. The man is also well known in terms of being an Instagram. His page is called Sam the Trap Man. Also in 2019, the man established the Eastern Fear Link. In terms of the conservation project that assists or also restores, so to speak, restores the native blue duck back in Aotearoa and back into the rivers as well. And so the man is more than just a trapper, also a conservationist. The man also is a father of two, an incredible wife as well, but also has an incredible story to share. Please put your hands together for the man himself, Sam the Trap Man Gibson! Sam, also forgot to mention, hey, your book, he's the author of the book, which is the same name as Sam the Trap Man. So Sam, I thought, just welcome, brother. Welcome on board, and welcome for joining us at the table, brother. But I thought, just to start the ball rolling, bro, maybe if you want to do something, I don't know, in Te Reo, obviously, I don't know, maybe something, a mihi or a pepehau or something.
My reo Māori is absolutely terrible, hey?
So good. All good, bro. All good, brother. But I thought, just to start the ball rolling, bro, because obviously in the book, obviously you're a trapper, and people think, oh, trapper, what's the hunting? Obviously, you hunt, you fish, and so forth. And obviously, in the book, it talks in the early stages in terms of your love and your passion for the outdoors. Bro, tell us why the outdoors? What was it about the outdoors that made you like, man, I want to do this, and that's my passion. This is what I want to do.
Like, I grew up with, like, my grandfather and my grandmother, they're both like hunters and fishers, and my father, like my mum and dad, they're right into the bush. They took us tramping as kids, and so even from being a young kid, we just got raised in the bush, which is pretty incredible. But when I hit my teenage years, it became real important to me. You know, it was a one place where I kind of felt like I was home and could be me. And it was one of those things as a 16-year-old that I was partying pretty hard. We had moved to what I thought was a big city, but, you know, Auckland's crazily huge. But moved to Hawke's Bay. It was a big city. I felt a little bit out of my depth and got into the party scene pretty hard. And my father and my headmaster made a deal with me that we will send you back into Te Uruwera, back into the bush for that middle week of the term to learn how to be a trapper if you can knuckle down and get it together. And from that point onwards, the bush really became my coping mechanism, my safe space, yeah.
Wow. Because it seems like obviously we talk about Wairoa and the nature and so forth, and people now there's this thing called or phenomenon, so to speak, about grounding. Taking off your shoes and all that. Something about the forest and nature. What is it? Tell us. Can you describe for us? What is it for you personally that just makes you feel like, oh my gosh, this is regardless if it's like you feel like you're one with nature. What is it about nature?
The thing for me. So when I first started off in the bush, I was around these older guys, and they were like, they're pretty incredible bushmen, like didn't wear shoes, like just wore these woolen bush t-shirts and carried a machete in their hands, and that was how they wouldn't let us take food with us when we first started working in the bush. There's this one guy, Keith, that was like, no, when you're working with me, you don't bring lunch. If we're doing our role in the ngāhere will look after us. And so the bush is always, when we're trapping, the bush is always trying to feed us, right? So when we're hungry, there's always a kai. There's the fresh tips of the there's a piko and the fresh tips of the kawawa and the kariao, etc. And there's constantly fruit being dropped from the trees in autumn, and whenever we get thirsty, there's a stream, or whenever we hurt ourselves or get sick, the bush also tries to heal us through our rongoa. So to me, it was like, oh, this is the one place where the world's trying to like awhi me and try to look after me and care for me. And I was like, I feel that I am most happy and most at home when I'm giving back to the bush that's giving to me. So that's really where I find that sense of balance, because I'm constantly being nurtured by the trees and the plants and tāne and haumia around me. And yeah, if I can play my little part in helping those ecosystems thrive, then I'm at one with my path in life anyway, I think.
That's fascinating. God, that's so fascinating. It sounds like to me when you're in when you enter that part of, or when you enter do you just call it the bush? Forest?
Yeah,
Whenua?
the bush, forest, ngāhere.
Ngāhere. Is ngāhere the te reo word for that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so when you enter the ngāhere, it sounds like to me it's like you let go of everything that has attached itself to you outside of the ngāhere, and when you get into the ngāhere, you're absolutely free and just open to what it gives to you.
100%. I feel like the bush is always truthful too. Sometimes in social situations, people say one thing and do another, or like they've got hidden agendas or objectives, and I'm not someone that reads those things particularly well. And the cool thing about the bush is, like, if a cat is going to stalk in on an animal, like every hair in its body shows you that it wants to kill that animal. It's the same if like a kerere, our falcon, wants to do that. Like every feather on its back shows you truthfully that it wants to go get itself a feed.
Yeah.
And so it's the same with the trees. When we start to learn how to read the trees and for that matter the rivers and everything else, the cool thing about that is like everything's always honest and it shows its intent based on face value. And so it takes like no stress to be around because there's nothing to try and decipher because everything's being honest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. I remember years ago, I hadn't never been to Taranaki before, never been to that part of the motu before, and when I met the guy there, he's passed on now, but when he said to me, when you drive through the mongers, talk to them, engage with them, they will protect you if you acknowledge them when you drive through. And I remember one night driving there after that kōrero, and it was so stormy and raining and I could barely see the road. I really felt a sense of safety when I drove through those mongers, and I was like, okay, I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but please protect me, please look after me. I know in the midst of all this, you're going to be there with me. And it was such a beautiful drive, even though it was so stormy. So I love hearing what you're saying, that, the ngāhere is honest and open. And if you allow yourself to be led by that, it provides all your needs. I think that's so beautiful.
Yeah, and pretty lucky to be surrounded by that in life. That's where I do my work, and I'm I'm definitely pretty grateful for the opportunity to, I mean, you know, to live in the bush, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about, you know, like the trees, like, are you able to read sort of, like, you know, we have all these yeah, you're nodding, so you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, reading the trees. What is that?
Yeah, how deep do you want to go?
As deep as we can, because
Yeah.
there's so many gems in what you're saying. I know you're just touching the surface right now, but when that part of our whenua and our world, I mean, you're saying to me that, or you're saying to us that it talks to us, it's telling us stuff, and we've got to be able to understand what it's saying. And so what could be some of the things that it's telling us about maybe?
I feel like, you know how like lots of people have like a pet dog, right? And dogs don't speak English to us, right? But we still pick up on what's going on for that dog, right? Or like we might have a 1-year-old that doesn't really have very good speech yet. Like it's not communicating with us with words, but we still are reading what's going on for it. And the trees and the ecosystems are still the same. So like trees that are damaged, mawiwi, they're a bit sick, they will often display mushrooms coming out the sides of them. And so the mushrooms will live on the dead wood of the tree, and so it's our job as bushmen to notice that and to understand that that tree's sick, and to figure out what we need to do in the ecosystem to try and bring that back into balance. And if there's too many sick trees, we really need to do some work. If there's too many mushrooms, it's almost like the trees are giving us an incentive to pay attention by giving us a kai in mushrooms. You know what I mean? Like, so my kids and I, we roll around and my kids love it. You know, we'll go out mushrooming and harvesting these big, delicious, juicy tawaka mushrooms. Like they're so much more flavorful than anything you can get that grows on the ground. They're just nutty and delicious. And anyway, sorry, we can go down that tangent.
They are.
We love mushrooms.
So good.
Carry on.
But not those kind of mushrooms.
I love mushrooms. I love mushrooms.
Okay.
No, I mean mushrooms like on food, but I love these mushrooms.
Well, I'm thinking about the one of the gravies and the potatoes.
Yo.
Yeah, that mushroom.
So not those kind of, but yeah, mushrooms. Yeah, so mushrooms, my kids just love it because they're going around harvesting these delicious mushrooms and getting a kai. But the cool thing is that they are also going, oh, that tree's sick. How sick is it? Is it going to come back to balance? Are we going to be able to, and what do we need to do as people to play our role in the ecosystem to bring that back to balance? And when that tree falls down, are enough other trees coming up underneath it to replace it, or do we need to be controlling the deer so that there are going to be more trees coming through? So yeah. I don't know. That's the kind of things like when we start to read our ecosystems and unpack our ecosystems and read the trees and what's going on for them, that's the kind of tohu are the signs that we're looking for in the bush.
Wow. So what is your process? You see the mushrooms as a signal that that tree or that part of the ngahere is unwell. How do you go about that? Like, how do you go about
how do you fix it?
remedying it?
Yeah, so oftentimes we need to figure out what's going on. So if, like the base thing would be actually are trees growing up around it? Because likelihood are when mushrooms are growing, that tree is going to fall down. It's probably pretty crook because trees will talk to each other through the mushroom network as well. It's kind of sounds hippie, but it's not. Their roots connect to the mycelium network and they communicate through their that mushroom network. And so if they're going to die, we do need to make sure those trees are coming through, and one action we can take is to control the deer to a lower level. The other thing is, one of the causes that trees often get sick from is there's a huru layer in the bush. They're like curly ferns that cover papatōnuku. And so if they aren't present, the leaf litter that falls onto the ground and that would otherwise make soil and nutrients for the trees can get washed away in the rain down into the rivers. And so if we don't, so what we need to do is re-establish that huru layer, that fern layer, so the trees have nutrients to be, it's like starving our people, or like our people just eating fried chips every night. They're going to get sick, right? So if we can re-establish that huru layer and that soil and those ngangara, those insects and that real productivity in the soil, our trees get all the things they need and they can grow strong. So it's about bringing in place that ecosystem. So yeah, the mushrooms are a bit of a tohu on the whole ecosystem.
That's cool.
Is there a lot of people like you?
I don't know, I'm pretty weird. No.
No, they actually care for our ngahere, our trees, and
Yeah.
is there many like you? Because we have so many doctors for people, but it sounds like we need the same for...
I feel like we had lots of dock workers at one time, and then now through like the Jobs for Nature programs off the back of COVID, we are seeing so many more tangata whenua-led taiao crew. And that's really exciting to me,
It is.
because when we have tangata whenua working in and caring for our ecosystems, like forests thrive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm real excited. We do now. Like, we did it for a while. Like, there was a big gap. Like, there's like the 60, 70-year-old crew, and then there's a whole crew of like 25-year-olds.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So we're real lucky.
That's promising, eh?
And I kind of sit in that middle weird, awkward ground in between.
That's awesome. I can see your passion. You know,
Sorry.
you're so
Yeah,
engaging when you
yeah.
kōrero around this, and it just makes you actually want to know more about it. Because we often don't, well, and I can only speak for myself. It's one part of my life that I probably need to learn about more, is the environment, you know, the ecosystem, conservation. We get so caught up in this world of technology, work, the hustle here in Tamaki Makaurau, that you can really lose touch.
But you look after the people, and the people look after the land, and we've all got our lane to play. Without you doing the important mahi you do with our people, would our people have the resilience to be able to be out there looking after the whenua? I feel like we all, like as a whānau and as a community, we've all got our roles to play, eh?
Yeah.
You said that you found this place for yourself when you were around 16. How does it, you know, because there's a massive population here in Tamaki Makaurau, for example. How do we spot or encourage the younger generation that are coming up to kind of, because unless they're exposed to it, they may not know that this is an area of passion or a gifting that they might have if they're not exposed to it. But how are you able to sort of, what are the signals of a young child? Because you can kind of see a young businessman or a young inventor. You can kind of see those signals at a young age. But what would be some of the signals?
I just want the mischief ones.
Really?
Yeah, true story. Like, the classroom's not the best classroom for everyone. Like,
Cool.
I feel like that's accurate. Like, that's my journey. Like, the classroom's not the best classroom for everyone, and I literally want the mischief ones. Like, that's what we do at home. A lot of those ones that have just got all that energy, one of the best places for them is in the bush, right? Because we can use that energy. Like, we'll load you up with trap boxes. We'll send you up big, steep hills. Like, let's go. And, like, I guarantee they've slowed down by the end of the day. And, like, the cool thing is it's, like, not just Hani. Like, men are awesome in the bush and real capable, and they go fast and they carry heaps. But also, like, there's a real strong role for wahine in the bush as well, because our wahine and particularly our wahine Māori, like, they come back from a day on the hill and you go, oh, how was your day? You ask the father, man, we did this many traps and we killed this many things. And then you ask the girls and they're like, yeah, we saw this cool bird there and it was kind of doing this. And then, like, these ones are doing, and they come back with all this observational data because they've seen and observed more. And like, a couple of our trappers on our project, we've employed wahine Māori, and they just see so much more, and we can make so much better informed conservation decisions because of it. But I feel like having that duality in teams is really important.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's so cool and so important. And I think, do we have a lot of forestry, like ngahere type programs for rangatahi that are not sort of in the fit of a school system?
No. Short answer, no. Like,
Do we need more?
I believe so, for sure. Like, we, on our Eastern Field Link project, we have a lot of, like, educational programs, and so we would take schools out into the bush. We run holiday programs, young people that have been identified by others as potentially needing another trajectory, they come out and do work with us as well, and then a couple of them we figured out how to grow them through the bush into people that are like, yep, I'm thriving in life now, and then popping them out into apprenticeships and even employing them in our projects as well. So
Cool.
it's real good fun, eh? We tend to get folks that are a bit mischief at 12 and grow them into really epic bushmen,
Yeah.
and then put them out into the contracting world. So yeah, it's good, and hopefully those young ones come back and come back to Tairāwhiti and
Just Tairāwhiti.
I just want all of our crew.
Fair enough.
You can. No, we don't want anyone anywhere else. We just want them looking after. I spent so much of my life looking after other people's whenua and looking after other people's ngākere and their taonga species. And I'm like, I'm real glad I got the opportunities to do that. It was great adventures, but I want our kids to come back home.
Yeah, because home's special, right?
I think so.
Yeah. What's so special about Tairāwhiti?
What's so special? I think that we're great mahinga kai practitioners. Like, we know how to put food on tables. Like, it is as simple as that. Like, I always tease people that come down. I'm like, so we may not have all our teeth. The boys have mostly got mullets. Yeah. Like, everyone drives the like dirty Hilux. I don't. I drive a Triton. But but they're going to be a diver, a hunter, like someone who knows how to forage kai out of the bush. They're going to be either a tuna person. Like, everyone's got their lane, but it's all centered around food. Like, we just love eating, eh? Yeah.
You do cook up a storm. I know this.
Yeah,
It's a fact.
I'm sorry.
No, that's cool, man. That's cool. In terms of officers here, that you guys are bushmen through and through. You know, there seems to have some good hunters there. And remember that guy we were there in Tairāwhiti a few years ago? Ivan. So yeah, you're right, absolutely right. He would, every time I would visit, the guy would just bring me some crayfish. I was like, oh man,
And he'll dive.
He'll dive. He
He
said, he's got it this morning. So man, this guy's the man. So props to Ivan out in Tairāwhiti. Can't wait for some more crayfish when it comes come up. But you're right. I love what you said. The whole dialogue in terms of what you were saying, it just seems like you guys are like the trappers, but you guys are like a watchman. I don't know. When you're describing you guys are watchmen, you guys kind of like guardians of the forest, and so to speak. And I love what you guys do. And so, in terms of the work that you do, the mahi that you do as a trapman, I can imagine the incredible adventures you would have. And so I was wondering, what are some of the with the rangatai? What are some of the incredible adventures that you've had, and maybe you can tell us some of the stories, or maybe some of the dangerous stories, so to speak.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories there. With our rangatahi, like, some of our most crack-up ones is like you bring a crew that are just like grown up in town. Like, they turn up and like, all right, bring bush gear, we've got, when you need this, and this, and they turn up and they've got like, turn up with a duvet instead of a sleeping bag, so they've got to carry that across rivers and try not to get it wet. They turn up in flip-flops instead of shoes, and you're like, okay, cool, we can work with this, and you get them into the bush and like no one's got anything, eh? And so like when we first started on Eastern Field Link, we were like, this is a health and safety nightmare. And now it's great because we've got like all the gear we need. We've got the tents, the boots, the raincoats, everything, sleeping bags, everything. But the cool thing is just like, we just take them up some real sketchy big cliffs and jump into rivers, and like kids are just like, whoa, this is like Lord of the Rings. Like, that's really sweet. But yeah, I think the like gnarliest things for me was like down in Fiordland, because I'd come from Te Urewera where the bushes constantly try to feed you. It's like one of our aunties like, oh boy, you look skinny, have a food. And like, this is like the vibe of Te Urewera to me. Like, it's like, Te Urewera is constantly trying to feed me, constantly trying to make me well and bring me back to balance. I got sent down to Fiordland. Fiordland's cold. And it's beech forest, and there's no food in the forest. Like, there's none. Like, there's nothing to eat. So being a bushman that's not used to taking food into the bush, all of a sudden you're like living off like canned food and like, and it gets so cold that, and they send you into these huts in the middle of winter when there's snow on the ground, and you've got no fireplace because they don't want you cutting down the trees to like build a fire to warm yourself. And so we were in the bush and it got so cold at night that you end up cutting a slit in the mattresses with your hunting knife just so you can get that extra insulation by stuffing your sleeping bag down inside the mattress and pulling the mattress up around you. And it got real cold. And then one time I was doing some work, I got dropped off by a helicopter, and Fieldon's steep, it's full of bluffs. And so I was climbing down this bluff system, and it was moss on top of rock, and the moss gave way and slipped. And you know those like jump spots into rivers where you like jump and you're like 1, 2, 3 and then hit the water. This was like 1, 2, 3 and straight onto rock. And like just busted out my ankle. And I had to I was like, sweet Wallace. I was like, it's no protruding bones. We're okay-ish. And I was like, right, while I've still got this adrenaline and I can't feel the hurt, we're going to try and get to somewhere where I can get out of here. So I like used my rifle as a crutch and hobbled down to this like track. It took hours. And by the time I got to the hut, like my foot was just like exploded and pretty bad. And I was too proud to call in on the radio for help because I was like, the people at the office are going to tease me, but more importantly, this could be like a newspaper story. I was like, as a bushman, I don't want to be in the newspaper as one of those dickheads that fell off the bluff. You know? And so I was like, oh no. So I was like, no, I stayed the night in the freezing cold. All I had was like a swan dry to keep me warm. I was like sitting there freezing and radioed in the morning, and one of the ladies in town, I was like, can you talk to my mate who's a helicopter pilot and tell him to just come pick me up and I'll square him up like tomorrow with cash and we just won't talk about it? And she was like, no, we can't do that. The procedure is to do a medevac. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I hung up the radio and she was really upset. So I hung up the radio and I tried to like limp out. And next thing I hear is a helicopter's coming over and they just medevac me out of there. And I was like, we didn't end up in the paper, but I got a lot of rib for that. So yeah, you do come a cropper a few times. I've been shot at like 4 times as well in the bush.
Yeah, no, I know you talk about it in the book as well. So people have been shooting you, and so tell us about that because some of those narrow misses as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, a few times where I've been working in the bush, like even wearing high vis, and because you're working in the bush during the roar when the stags are all roaring at each other, and like there's a big, I don't want to get too divisive here, but like there's a big difference between people that like live in the bush and people that come into the bush for their one bush trip during the roar. There's a difference in bush literacy, eh? And so I was working in the bush trapping, we're walking through all this fern, and as you walk through the fern, people can hear the crunch and that sort of thing. And next thing I hear is like, boom, and past me.
Oh my gosh.
Whoa. And I just yelled out, "Oi!" And I heard the hunter scamper off. I was like, oh no, that was a close shave. And it really scared me, because at that time I was like, my whole working life, I was like, live and breathe bringing back these taonga species from extinction. You know, we were working with kakapo and takahe and kiwi and different bats, and they were, when I started in conservation, there was a good chance that we were going to lose all those species. And through the work we were doing, we were like bringing them back to abundance, you know. And I was like, yep, who I am as a person's invested in this. But then I was like, there's a very real possibility that I could die doing this work. And am I prepared to continue to do this work if there's a chance that this might be the entirety of my life?
Wow.
Yeah.
And the answer is?
Well, the answer is
yes.
I just sing in the bush now, so everyone knows I'm not a deer.
Good on you. What's your song?
All sorts of songs.
Yeah, you kind of have to make that noise, eh? But could that interfere with you finding one of those rare,
No,
beautiful?
not so much. So when we're looking for, when we're working with those species, we're like doing that. When we're trapping, we're doing that. So like if we're looking for taka here, we'll have the transmitter going out the side of the helicopter. It's like something out of Rambo.
Wow.
And
it does look like it.
John Rambo.
oh, you had a Rambo guy on the other day.
Samson Rambo.
Samson Rambo. That was a cool interview. And anyway, they drop you off in the helicopter above them, and you run down to them, and you got to catch their legs out from under. It's like just playing rugby with native species. Anyway, I digress. But
How much prep work goes into that? Like, going into that moment. Because you're not just jumping into a helicopter and putting out and looking, it's going to find. Like, there's a lot of prep work, right?
Very much so.
A lot of research, a lot of, like, what's that whole process to get you to that point where you found them? Like,
there's a lot of scientists, like, there's a lot of science behind what we do in the conservation space. I've got a science degree, but I don't do that level of science. So they literally, I'm the bushman. I'm just the guy on the tools. Like, I get to do the fun stuff like jumping out of helicopters and catching birds, and I do the fun stuff like checking the traps. Like, there are some people with PhDs that are much more academic than I do that figure out that really intensive work program.
Yeah, and the location and the timing and the how to locate them, all of that, eh?
Exactly.
That's mean. And I guess I'm really interested in that, because we do like to pull out this is what we found, but people see the moment and think it all happened in the moment. But we know, man, there's a whole process behind that. There's a whole team that sit behind that as well. Or is there not?
There 100% is.
Yeah.
Like for us on the Eastern Field Link, we have, like, right now the birds have done their making love thing. They did that a couple of months ago, or a month ago.
I like
what's the sound? What's the sound?
Bro, it is hilarious. Like, the male, like, because we all often just sit there. Oh, that sounds a bit weird, but we do. Finish
that sentence.
We do kind of sit there and watch because it's just funny.
Interesting.
It is interesting. It's fascinating, and it's kind of very violent. And so,
oh gosh,
the male like grabs onto the female and like holds her underwater while she's like splashing, and he'll like do his thing. It's kind of odd. And then, like, if he sees you watching, he'll like turn around and like charge at you. Like, so they're quite protective of their time alone. Yeah, it's amazing.
Are you singing when you're watching? I'm just kidding. So that he doesn't attack you. That's on your
Instagram pages.
Are they all quite similar? Different species, like.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like love making stuff.
Yeah,
I'm saying, they're all quite violent and aggressive, like that.
No, they're not. Each species is quite different.
Yeah.
But Whio particularly aggressive. Like, we were just visiting then they tuck their nest up next to the river in like overgrown like trees, and so the male stands sentry outside, and so protects the nest. And we were hanging out there yesterday actually, and he was like coming and charging us. It's very fun and interactive.
Oh wow, God, that is. I can imagine, because you get to see and hear and experience so many things that we don't even consider, but. I can imagine. That's fascinating. Just even hearing you talk about it.
It is.
I don't know. I might be oversharing.
No. I think it's cool. I think what you're sharing is cool. Like, obviously we're in the city, and obviously we think of the rural and the forest and the whenua and so forth. We're like, and sometimes I think we take it for granted just being here. With the bright lights and so forth. But there's something about nature that's beautiful, and you're part of it. Like you said, I see you as a guardian, as someone who kind of watches over the forest. But also when I'm thinking about the forest, I'm thinking obviously about your book as well. And I also think about your Instagram page. How does that kind of meet together in terms of Bushman, Instagram, and then you got quite a big following in terms of social media. So how does that work with you being a Bushman?
Yeah, it's an interesting beast. Like, I don't really want to do the socials thing. I was one of those guys that like was still holding on to their like Nokia 2280 like brick for so long. Brick. And the wife was, because I kept complaining. I was like, how I talked about like there's that older generation of Bushmen and not many young ones coming through. I kept coming home and complaining to my wife. I'm like, this next generation, we keep blowing them out on the hill. They're kind of not really keen on the bush, and like we need them to come through, otherwise the bush is toast. And she was like, you should share that mātauranga that's been passed on to you in the space where they are. They're not in the bush. They're not wanting to come into the bush yet. So you need to put the kindling down and spark up the fire for them, you know. And so she's like, you should start this thing called, an account on this thing called Insta. And I was like, what is Instagram? You know, I still don't have a camera phone or anything. And she was like, showed me what it was, and she was like, you could do this. I'm like, oh, okay. And I tried it, and it turned out that, like, I feel like at that time, with how busy and Instagram was, now it's TikTok, you know, obviously, but like at that time, there was a real lack of like wholesome content on social media. And so it just kind of popped off. And so we were pretty excited to be able to share some of that mātauranga into that space and hopefully spark people's interest in the bush and spark people's love for the bush and at least get them interested in stepping into the ngāhere, because once they step into the ngāhere, it's like, we don't have to do anything. The bush makes folks fall in love with it, you know, like we're so susceptible to our pukus. Like as soon as like you get fed some like delicious tōtara berries or koroi or these delicious bush lollies, we can't help but love the bush. So yeah, I needed to just get them into the bush, and one of the ways we could do that was through social media.
It's cool, man. It's working, bro, because the amount of people who are following you, man, it's just increasing. But also, obviously, the book, social media. Now you got the Instagram, but now you got the book. So how did this come about, the book?
Yeah, I didn't really want to write I'm 35. Like, it's pretty pretentious to be writing like a book at 35. I felt like I was like, Ellen and Unwin, a publishing company, reached out to me on Instagram and they were like, hey, would you like to write a book? I was like, I think I'm too young, like not really. And then they said, oh, you should think about it. You should also see this contract. And I gave the contract to my wife and she's like, you're writing a book. Cool. So yeah, that's how that came about. And my wife kind of like, she is responsible for all the good decisions in our lives. And so she was like, it's a real opportunity to write a hunting book and use it as a vehicle to pass on some of this mātauranga and some of these skill sets and knowledge things that you hold, because lots of hunters in Aotearoa are hunters but haven't necessarily been raised with the mahinga kai aspect or the conservation aspect of what we do, and lots of conservationists look at hunters and be like, they're just extracting things from the bush and they don't care. And then it's nice to be able to help bring them along on the journey that like conservation, hunting, mahinga kai, they're all pretty much the same thing. You know, we can't have our mahinga kai practices without conservation. And you know, hunting is a mahinga kai practice. And like one of my big drivers in conservation is like we went and released some kakapo at Maunga Taitiri like last year or the year before, and my son was like, Papa, the whai kōrero that they're talking about is saying that, you know, one day we get to have them as pets and we get to eat them. and I was like, that's right. Like, and when I started in conservation, we never talked about like being able to eat our delicious species again.
Yeah.
But the day is coming when like kiriru are going to be in such abundance that hopefully my kids or my grandkids can once again stuff those with miro.
Yeah.
And without, you know, while still like whakamana, while still being able to whakamana those kiriru through the process of kai. And then, you know, we're heading towards that day. So that's one of our biggest drivers in conservation. So I think that's one of the big drivers for the book, is to help bring those wheels together to share some of that mātauranga.
It's cool, bro. I like that. Because in this day and age, so how do you deal with that, Sam? Because you, obviously for hunting and trapping, there's a bit of a mixed opinion around trapping and so forth. How do you kind of overcome those kind of challenges?
Mixed opinion in what way? And
you get some people like, oh, trapping and hunting, or conservationists, animals. You mentioned hunting or pets, and people are like, oh, hey, save the animals and don't touch the animals, so forth. So how do you kind of kind of navigate through those kind of opinions, so to speak?
Yeah, it's a real interesting one, eh? And so I often tell, like, my whakaaro on that is probably that our tipuna, you know, for Māori in this country, we think of kiwi, right? And we made our cloaks out of kiwi, you know, we made kākahu kiwi, and we care about kiwi. Like, no one can accuse anyone in this country of not thinking kiwi are amazing, right? And so the interesting thing about that is, like, some Aboriginal peoples in Australia, they do the same with possums. Like, when a possum's born, they get given, when a kid's born, they get given a possum skin with their the meaning of their name painted on it, and when they're 1 year old, they get another one, and it gets sewn to the first with everything they achieved in that first year painted on that, and te me. And so to me, and the interesting thing is, like, possums are taonga species to their own ecosystem and their own indigenous peoples, the same with stoats and everything else. And so to me, yes, we have a lot of people very concerned about animal rights. The way that we in our projects work with it is that we need to whakamana these animals through the process of death, because without taking them out of the ecosystems, our taonga species here in Aotearoa that are endemic to our ecosystems will disappear. It's as simple as that. And we have always been hunters here in Aotearoa. People have always been hunters, and actually, if we look at ecosystems, animals have always hunted animals as well. As a trapper, I pride myself in my ability to create a very humane experience. Every trap I use is an A-class humane trap. We test them very rigorously. And with my intention, it's always to whakamana those, to treat those animals I'm killing as taonga to the indigenous people and the indigenous ecosystems. And I would expect the same from other people killing our taonga species as well overseas. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that too in-depth? Does that
awesome.
make sense?
Yeah, it
that makes
does.
it hard
That's
out, man.
beautiful.
Awesome, beautiful, well said, bro.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say I don't care.
No.
That's your problem.
I do care, right? And the reason I care, like, I was trapping up at Waikirimoana one time. I opened a trap box, and we're using these old school traps at the time, like not humane traps. And I opened it, and there was this rat looking up at me, and he was stuck in that trap by the testicles. And I was like, wow, that's a really bad way to die. You know, is there a worse way to die than being stuck by the testicles
That's empathy.
and starving to death? And I, like, closed the trap box lid, and I went, what do I do? Like, I feel empathy for this rat. If I let him go, what's he going to do? Go and eat our native birds. But if I don't let him go, and he's going to die stuck by the... And I was like, that's not very nice. So what I had to do, and it kind of cemented or clarified in my head how I felt about that process, I picked up a big stick, dispatched him as quick as was possible, and you know, native birds are fine in that situation. I feel empathy for that animal, but I have to kill him. There's not another way around it. And my job to do at that time is to kill him as quickly and with as much respect as possible.
Beautiful, man. Well said. And like you said, you're just keeping the ecosystem in balance, the cycle.
If we
That's
take
cool.
people out of our
Yeah,
ecosystems, it's going to fall apart
Cool,
at
bro.
this point.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
That's cool. Gosh. So that, you said whakamana?
Yeah.
So the whakamana process to death. So that's just making sure that they...
Their mana is upheld through the process of death. And my mum, she's an anthroposophical nurse, and she helped me get, like, clarity around that. Like, she often helps people in their last weeks or days, and, you know, sometimes, like, it's difficult. Sometimes we don't do that process particularly well towards the end of people's lives. And so, like, her job is to really, like, help retain their dignity and their mana through their last period of time. And she kind of helped me talk through a bit of that, because she does that work with people.
Yeah. Wow,
great,
that's
bro.
beautiful. It really is. What a beautiful process. And it's interesting because as you kōrero to that, I was learning about ethics the other day, you know, like experiment ethics or ethics around research, and any research that you do with animals and humans. Like there's a real strict process around that. But they were saying that the ethics process around testing things on animals, for example, there's a lot more protocol around that compared to protocol for humans. And so I was like, oh wow, this is absolutely fascinating. But fascinating in the context that, you know, they're still upholding the mana of the animal that's being tested in this process, that it's not just, oh yeah, it's just a rat. It's actually, no, we still have to care for it in the same way. So it's beautiful to see that you don't need to have an ethics process to be able to do that. You're doing that just from a humane perspective or an ecological perspective.
I think so too, and I think like we're doing it for like I'm working for the ecosystem and the abundance of that ecosystem. Like obviously there's self-interest in that, but it's not like I'm not doing it so I can wear cosmetics on my face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like yeah. Does that make a little bit of sense? Like,
yeah, absolutely. And I think your son hit it on the head. Like when he said he's future thinking, like, Dad, right now this is rare, but I can see in the future it's going to be in abundance and we're going to be able to eat this. I think that's such a beautiful thing to say, because he can kind of see your mahi, he can see what you're trying to do, but he can see the benefit on a bigger scale. I think that's so cool, right?
yeah, I'm pretty lucky and proud to be able to raise our kids doing what we do. Like, I'm sure they will hate me for it later, but like,
what do you mean they'll hate you for it later?
oh, you know, like we always stuff off our kids, I'm sure, but like,
yeah, we do.
They'll probably be like, oh, why'd you take us up all those hills when we were just little? Like, why did we get to? How come we couldn't go live in Auckland and eat all these delicious like foods? But yeah, we're pretty lucky to be able to raise kids.
Have you always called the berries and that kind of kai as ngahere lollies?
Like, oh,
or have you just started calling that for your kids' sake?
Just for my kids. Because like
that's good.
We're trying to talk about it, like, because I want to decolonize my kids' pellets. You know, like, because
wow.
like you know, like a lot of our kids now. This is getting deep and kind of questionable perhaps, but like a lot of our kids now are so used to like salts, sugars and fats that they reject the bitters and the sort of tartiness of many of our native and traditional kai. And so I'm really excited to like bring kids into the bush and like normalize the natural flavors. So like piko like being a little bit bitter, and like which is like our fern fronds of our like certain species of fern, and like our kariao like tastes like a bean. And of course like lots of kids now don't like vegetables, and like our kariao's like supplejack tips, and it's like bush asparagus, and we fry it up with a bit of butter and garlic, and it's just delicious, right? But some kids don't like vegetables. And then we've got like kroi, which tastes like a sour snake lolly mixed with an APA beer and falls from like the kahikatea tree. And like a lot of kids are like, ooh, that's sour. But my kids just think they're like bush lollies, and all their mates just think they're bush lollies. So now we go into the bush and it's like, oh, Papa, can we find the bush lollies? It's like, yeah, come on then.
You're so smart.
We're just trying to like re-normalize and decolonize our kids' pellets, because it's part, like as I said earlier, like my reo Maori is very poor, and so I can't bring that to the table. But if we can have something to offer in that space, it's that kai from the ngahere, hopefully.
Yeah, gosh, I even love you that whole statement around decolonizing of the palate, because a lot of those salts and sugars, they're addictive, and you end up just you're craving for them, and it's a psychological craving that quite often then you find all these health risks and all of that as a result of it. So you saying decolonize the palate, I think, is a thing.
You're onto it.
An actual thing.
You're totally onto it, Sam. I like that, man. Like if we could bring it back, man, maybe because all the amount of food and junk food and all these chemicals and what you're doing for your kids and the rangasai that you work with, that's cool, bro. I think it's more power to you, bro. That's good. Can't wait to taste those lollies.
Come down, like next time you're in Tairāwhiti, let's do some bush missions, eh?
I actually think you guys need to go.
Hard out, man.
Bring the cameras out.
Bro, hard out. Man, this is Brad. We need to go and embarrass ourselves.
Would you ever? Because if that's, because I think we're becoming more educated around the impacts of sugar. We're becoming more and more educated around it, and it seems like the way to go, or the approach is we're learning, the health risks of sugar and salt and all of these other types of food, but the alternative is to not consume them. But yet, there's still this society of sweetness and lollies and all of that sort of stuff that's been around for generations. Do you see a business opportunity here with forest lollies?
I hadn't thought about it, but that's a great idea. My sister's like, I always get confused. She's either a dietitian or a nutritionist, whatever one's like the most qualified. She's that one.
Yeah.
And she works at the hospital here, and she said that's like one of the biggest things is just changing people's cravings for that kai. And so, yeah, I think there might be a business opportunity there, but I also think that like I don't want to be making money off something that should just be normal for our people. So I'm all for, like, we're always bringing folks that aren't from the bush into the bush and kind of like and hanging out for a while and showing them different kai and that sort of thing, and we're all for that. But yeah, I hadn't thought about
manufacturing bush lollies.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. And I always feel a little bit funny, like financially benefiting from our mātauranga and our ngāhira. I feel like our ngāhira is for everyone, and I feel like we're just holders of the knowledge that we hold. So I don't know if I want to be like turning
you
that
can
into
give
a
me the
business
idea.
model. Yeah,
I was kidding.
Tell us where to look.
And then you can ban her from the forest.
No, but I mean, besides that end.
But it does, like, I'm fascinated by that whole thing too. Like, I think that there's like huge potential in our farming systems to like fence off blocks of bush from deer and goats and have those piko beds coming back, because if our piko beds come back, then it's another income stream for our farms, and it means that we can employ mahinga kai practitioners. Yeah, we don't employ mahinga kai practitioners in our rural landscapes.
Why is that?
Is it expected?
Because I don't think we've put a business model around it.
Yeah, and someone will, and I think it's inevitable when you've got all this research that's coming out around, these the kinds of foods that are not healthy, that are creating, all the kind of health problems that we have. What people now are doing is they're looking for alternatives, and if there's something that's as pure as what's available out in the ngāhere, then why are we trying to recreate something out of, all this other stuff when it's right there at your fingertips? But the thing is, somebody's got to start that process. And you're right, unless you put a business, and it's not a business model because you want to capitalize on it. It's also about how do you distribute it? How do you make it available? How do you market it? Like, that is all part of the whole, getting it out, getting some of the beautiful products or some of the beautiful resources inside the ngāhere and the mātauranga that sits with it out into the rest of the motu. And unless somebody does that, it's there.
There's a whole debate, like we just had that huge debate around like rongo Māori and the legislation that should sit around that, and I'm fully not qualified to like comment on that, and I feel like this conversation is like real close to that.
Oh, is it? What's rongo Māori is?
Like our traditional medicines from the bush, and so like there's so
capitalizing on that.
And there's a real fear that as soon as we bring businesses into that space, it goes away from like people practicing rongoa Māori that do it in an intimate way with those landscapes and can harvest sustainably and can also like help awhi those trees to be abundant. And there's a real fear that big business will take over and go, well, we'll call this brand of thing rongoa Māori, but does it have that integrity through the process? Because efficiency is not always efficacy. And if we introduce efficient processes,
then you're
we
taking away
lose
that.
the connection and the symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that's true. Because I recently got introduced to that, and I saw some of the beautiful medicines that they were able to produce from the ngahere, and the what that plant was designed to heal and what it produced. Yeah, and even the way they presented it in just like a bottle, and you could see the purity of it. But you're right. Once you start putting branding around the bottle, it then takes away the essence of it, and it then is put in a different light. I see where you're going.
It's the same with that. Like there was a push a little while ago around like legalization of cannabis, right? And for me personally, like on the coast, I see the damage that legislation does to whānau on the coast. You know, it would be great to decriminalise cannabis, because you would end up with less people dealing with the legal repercussions of that mum and dad industry. But as soon as you, and you know, like for me, like I don't drink, I don't partake in, like, you know, like there's no, I'm not particularly opinionated on here nor there. But the thing is, as soon as you legalize it, you open the door for big businesses to be making the money, and the people that were involved in the mum and dad industry of it, they essentially get shut out of the industry anyway. So you're not actually seeing the flow down effect of the economic model to the people that actually need it and the communities that actually need it and have the skill sets around that as well. So to me, I'm like, it's one of those big things. Like if we commercialize our traditional mahinga kai species, then do you lose control of that?
Economically?
If you hand it over to capitalism, yep.
That's where we sit in this country, and I feel like that's like more prevalent than ever right now.
Could you also lose the essence of it?
100%.
The whole purpose of what, the naturality of it. Do you lose that in that whole process as well?
And I think that's the biggest thing for me. And like one of the scariest things about sharing some of these things on social media is that like we just can't afford for extractive personalities to come into the bush and extract things from it. Like unless you're in there doing the mahi to help the bush thrive and become abundant, and you're doing that work, I don't know that we want folks coming in and extracting.
Yeah, that's good.
Because they don't know. They don't read. They don't read yet about what the trees can offer, and you know, what that resource, what that ecosystem needs from us for us to be able to.
Is this why we see some of the issues that we see in forestry? Because of the way they is this touchy?
Yeah, I'm from the East Coast.
Okay, all right.
But
but I'm just based on that.
Based
on that kōrero.
You've got big international corporations extracting resources from our landscapes. There's never going to be a sustainable business model.
But even that, like I can hear the whakamana, that word that you used with animals.
Yeah.
I can hear you have the same approach to the trees and the ferns and the leaves and the matters of the bush. You have the same approach to that when these big companies come in and they are extracting the wood, the trees for their wood processing and all of that, if it's not done in the same mana, like the same respect, and they're just cutting trees in its masses, taking them down, they're not caring for it in the way that it should be done. Like, should there be a way it's done?
They're not harvesting native trees. They're harvesting pine trees in landscape that predominantly used to be sheep and beef pasture.
Right.
It's just an absolute nightmare on the coast right now. I don't know if we want to get into that, but it is like it's an unsustainable business model on the coast, and we're shipping a lot of our topsoil offshore in pines and flushing it down the rivers into the oceans, and it's degrading our oceans as well. So it's a real scary thing for me, and there's only one real solution, and that's to get diverse native forests back on those steep hillsides. There's no other land use. There's no other land use practice that is suitable for those landscapes.
Yeah.
We need to find the economic model to get forests back onto those landscapes. And forests are good for kai, they're good for the land, but they're good for people too. You know, like people, for me anyway, I'm most at home and most balanced as a human when I'm in the bush. Like anytime I'm like, I've got mental health problems, so, like any times I'm like got things going on, I need to spend time in the bush.
Yeah.
And we take a lot of young fellas as part of the Eastern Field Link project into the bush, and they'll come in pretty shut down sometimes and like be looking at the floor and soft handshakes and all that stuff our grandfathers teach us not to do. And they'll come in at the beginning of the day and and by the end of the day they're just like right up here and able to be they're much more open. And so I feel like the bush plays a real important role in our communities and has a real ability to bring our people back to balance and remedy some of that trauma that is going on.
Wow, that's cool. That's so awesome. Because we think about bush as in just the whenua component, but I'm also hearing that it's a lot more than that. There's wairoa that sits there that engages with a person's hauora, that brings that back up. And I don't think we talk about that enough in terms of a healing or you said coping earlier, but it's also a healing mechanism. Maybe we should have our hospitals in the bush.
Yeah, I do quite a lot of things with there's a amazing program that we have in Tairāwhiti where healthcare, like studying healthcare professionals come to Tairāwhiti to get on their rural placement, and they come in and we take them for walks in the bush and we ask them all those questions. If you could redesign your practice, how many of your consults, like how much traction would you get in your consult if it was like a 15-minute walk around the bush rather than like in a sterile office? And they're like, and like how much of our physio work can we actually do in the ngāhere as well? And so like it's a really fun thing to help sort of facilitate them reimagining what a healthcare practice might look like. Obviously dentistry is a little more difficult.
Is it? No, I was kidding.
But like I don't know, don't want to get too happy, but like you could potentially have like midwifery in the bush, you can do physio in the bush for sure, and like low-level doctor consults, absolutely. I think it would break down a lot of barriers for folks. So it'd be cool to have like bush, like forests next to hospitals and doctors' practices for sure.
And I just you highlighting the 15-minute consults in the bush. You know what that also does for the health provider? It uplifts them, because can you imagine being a doctor who has to see a patient every 12, 15 minutes? It can take a toll on you. So it also keeps you in a good space as well. Hey, refreshed and sort of like propped up instead of, this is my 5th patient for the day.
100%, right? Because we're breathing good air then, eh?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
really good air, getting our
You're
steps
moving.
in.
Yeah. And you're engaging with nature. One of my friends, she wanted to run a gym in the bush, but she wanted to have glass, she wanted it all glass windows.
Like a greenhouse. Greenhouse.
Yeah, but the trees are outside and the treadmills are on the inside, and I was like, hey.
It's like halfway there, eh? It's halfway there. So who wants to climb a hill but not climb the hill?
Who wants to be in there but in a glass house? I was like, I get where you're going, but you still got like divisions and like partitions there. But I don't know if it was the view of it, but you'd be missing the oxygen and
all the benefits of
the actual benefits of
why you're there. Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on grounding and on the whole 432 hertz? The frequency of the earth and just the power. I think Pete I've heard about it, and I just wondered if there was any truth to that grounding. That's being barefoot just in nature.
Oh, 100%. I feel like we pick up on a lot through, you know how like in Te Reo Māori we have the word rongo, right? Like, and loosely translated means to listen, but we don't just listen with our ears. Hey, we listen with like our eyes, our nose, we can feel, on our skins and our emotions too. And I feel like when we go barefoot, we do pick up on the frequencies of the earth, but I think we also pick up on what is going on in the soil as well, because there's so many like microbes in the soils and so many little insects, and I choose to look at things in many different ways, and one of them is like through our old stories around, you know, trees and their orientation, like, you know, Tāne having his feet up against the heavens and here down through the ground. And so, you know, a lot of people think a tree's standing in the soil with its feet in the soil, but according to our traditions, like, that's the other way around, you know, the feet are in the sky and the hair is in the soil. And so I feel like that's often our role is to actually really feel the soil underneath us. And I don't know. I think that if we can go barefoot and we can drink water from the bush and breathe that air and get that mist and that wet on our skin, I feel like we do come back to balance, and it is grounding, and we do come back into frequency and pace with the planet. You know, when you guys walk through the bush, like, do you guys kind of slow down?
Yeah, I feel like obviously when we can at Tōtara Park, it feels like it's kind of, because you want to admire the nature and the bush and so forth, but you just feel like their heartbeat kind of slows down for me personally, and I just feel like you're just enjoying it and just the breath of fresh air and so forth. So there is a bit of a sense of, man, I just like being outside, and I wish I could do it more often.
Yeah,
So I do feel that. Yeah,
It feels thicker. Like the air feels thicker.
Feels thicker, eh?
Yeah,
Yep.
like when you asked, you know, when you said that comment just before we started, that there are pockets of that ngahere in Tamaki Makaurau. I was like, is there? And then I started thinking, and I was like, actually. And then I think straight away I started describing that wetness, the thickness, and yeah, you're not. It's like a totally different part of Tamaki Makaurau, and like, and it smells different. And when you're walking higher ground, it feels like you're not just walking uphill, but you're also walking in a mist, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. All of that feeling started coming in. I'm like, yeah, there are pockets like that in Tamaki Makaurau.
and it heightens, like you're saying, you mentioned the senses. It heightens the senses. Like, okay, you can hear things, birds, and all that. And when you're kind of walking uphill, steep hills, all you can hear is just.
Now that's you, bro.
You and me both. Oh my goodness. It's like, since having kids, the dad bod is just real.
So with you being bushman, you didn't have to exercise, because that is exercise, right?
Yeah, but yes. But also, like, a lot of the time now I'm doing the outwards facing side of things with our project. So I do trap a lot. A lot of the time when I'm trapping now, I've got my kids with me, so I'm going at their pace also. And a lot of the time now I'm doing the education side. So we've got some real, like, hearty crew out there trapping all day, every day, and they definitely get a good sweat on. But I don't get enough of the exercise to work off the burgers these days. Yeah.
You're a burger man.
Oh, burger, it's so bad. Like, I had a burger like just before I walked in here. Yeah.
From where?
There's a place called Ziggle. It's,
That's so good.
One man.
Pete's friends.
are they?
Yeah, they're good dudes, man. Ziggle's good.
Classic. So yeah, no, I it's like my cheat. Yeah, it's my Achilles heel. I definitely like Southern barbecue and burgers. It's like, if my wife's like, oh, you've worked real hard this week, she's like, you know, you can go and get a burger. And shout out to Smash Burger and Gizzy, like Hanks, they do the best burgers in Gizzy.
Oh no, now he's gonna go find it when we go there.
I love burgers, man. So yeah, man, that's us, man. So we will have to skip all the tramping and.
So I really interrupted earlier, but where were you going with the whole, it being in the bush and kind of, sort of, does it? I think you said, does it slow? Was the question around slowing us down?
Yeah, so like I find when I come like out of the bush to like Tamaki, like it's like high pace, like it's like It's like everything's fast up here. It's amazing. And I feel like I'm too sluggish for the pace of everything. And I feel like sometimes when I go into the bush, it slows me down as well. And I think I can do my best processing in the bush, and I can come to my clearest thinking in the bush. And we're doing that a little bit with businesses now with our conservation project, Eastern Fueling. We're like, businesses will bring folks into the bush to have their strategic meetings.
What?
Because they know that you can get clearer thinking.
Mm.
You can slow your team down to a pace where they can actually take the time to ponder the big decisions.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have them in town in a boardroom, everyone's trying to hustle for their speaking slot around the table, and everyone's trying to like out ego each other. So, bring our people into the bush, and they can kind of like come to some big, I don't know.
Good hooies there.
Yeah. Thank you for suggesting that. I think it's important for people to know where you might get your best thinking and your best strategic thinking or creative thinking, because where we kind of sit, from a workplace context, it's busy. Like, it's just so much background noise. You're trying to focus here, but you're also alert to everything that's happening around you. If you're in your own building, all you notice are all the things that need to be done.
I hear you.
So you're not quite...
It's like the old work from home thing, eh?
Well, that's right, eh? Because, is the bush your home?
Oh, my wife's going to listen to this. So I feel most at home in Te Irawera. I think that like goes without question. But like my kids are my home, and my wife's my home too. You know, like where they are, I just want to get back to them all the time. So it would be awesome if we could like live in our hammocks in the bush. I think that would be amazing. But that's not our reality, because our kids go to our kura iwi at home. So I feel most at home in the bush.
Mm.
But I also, my family's my home, eh? I love being a dad.
Yeah, I know. I heard you say earlier, and he actually means this because he can't wait to go back home to be with his family, which is so cool.
That's cool, bro. I like that.
So cool.
That's cool. Obviously, we can talk about forestry and trapping and conservation and so forth. But I heard you said several times, and I heard you said you love the forest. You love the forest, and you mentioned this amazing woman in your life. And so, because people often think, okay, the bushman or the trapper or the conservationist, rough, rugged men, these men have, And so, and you mentioned in your book, at page 110, you said, a date like no other. And so, brother, if you can just share a little bit of that, because it seems like this is an amazing woman in your life, obviously your wife, Roy Mata. Maybe you can share a little bit of that in the book, if you want to. I don't know. Tell it up to you, bro.
So when I first met Roy Mata, I was like, in our first month, I was like, oh, hey, do you want to come bush? And she was born on the west coast of the South Island. She's a Paitini princess, and she and then she did her high school and that in Christchurch. So she's a little bit of she wouldn't think of herself as a city dweller, but she's definitely a bit of a coffee drinker, if you know what I mean.
Cheers.
And so I was like, oh, do you want to come bush? And she's like, oh yeah, I'll come bush. So we get our packs and we drive up the coast, and we get to our spot, and we walk down the river, and she's not used to carrying a pack, so she kind of like tumbles over a little bit and steady her up, and we carry on. And she goes, so where does the track start? What track?
She's my kind of girl.
Like, aren't we going on like a tramping track? I'm like, the river's our track. And so we go for it. She's kind of like trying to get her head around that. And anyway, she's pretty great game, like Roy Mata. She's amazing. Like, she's pretty adventurous. And she's like, oh yeah, cool, we'll carry on. So we carry on and get around a few corners of the river, like a couple of hours in, and see these wild cattle in the bush. I'm like, oh, do you want to shoot one of those, babe? She's like, no. But you can. So I kind of go, oh, well, yep, that'll fill the freezer, eh? It's summer, like, barbecue season. We are hungry, must be fed. So we kind of settle down, and I go to take my shot. And all I can think about it, like her old man's like a big guy, eh? Like, she comes from like some serious like lineages. Like her great grandfather's like 7 foot tall, and her dad's like size 13 boots, and like he's a big guy. I was like, man, all I can think about is if I stuff this shot up on this wild cattle beast and it charges us and it smashes into his daughter, I am gonna be toast. So I'm like trying to settle into the shot, real nervous that I'll stuff it up, man. Boomfa. It drops. I'm like, sweet, we're job done. I put another round in it just to make sure that it's not getting up again. And we kind of like edge up to it, and it's done its thing. And I'm like, right, now we need to butcher. And she goes, what? And cattle beasts are huge, eh? And so like I start taking out the back steak, and it's still like muscle spasming and twitching, right? Because that's what things do. Like that's the reality of hunting. Like meat twitches after you've killed an animal. So I'm like, and the back steak on this thing's like this. So I'm like, babe, can you just hold this up while I get underneath it? And she's like, what?
Blood everywhere.
Blood, and this thing's going like this, and she's going, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, come on. Like, anyway, we have a little chat about like the cow and the destruction it's been doing to the ngāhere, and like she names it Daisy, and like everything's fine. And so she holds up this back steak, and we take it out, and then we take it off the back legs, and we hang it up in a tree, and we carry on. It starts,
my gosh.
we make it to Hartnett. It starts to rain that night, and it rains, and because the river's our track, the river's our way out of there. And I'm going, if we don't get out of here soon, we're going to be stuck in here for a week. So, of course, I hadn't checked the weather forecast like a numpty. And so we wake up early in the morning, we pack up, and I'm like, we need to get out of here, otherwise this is going to flood. We get down the river. And she was like, so how are we going to get this meat out? And I'm like, we're going to carry it. And she's like, no way. A cow's back leg is quite heavy. And we had our overnight gear. So she had her overnight gear in her pack. We load her up with this cow, like back leg of a cow. It's got to be like at like 60 to 80 kg.
Oh.
I've got the back leg and 2 back steaks and most of our overnight gear. It's 7 hours to get out of there. So we carry this meat. She only falls over in the river like twice, which is pretty good. And like 7 hours out of there, and the last thing is, I said, right, we're not allowed to cry until we get to the last hill, okay? She's like, okay, well, we're not going to cry. And she didn't cry, which is amazing. It's like our second date, so she's doing well.
Second date.
And we get to the hill at the end, and it's nighttime now. Like it's like 9 o'clock at night, and it's just a horrifically steep hill. And I strategically pull out a block of chocolate. She likes chocolate. We get some chocolate going, and we're okay. And she just missions up this hill, and I didn't realise till the top that she's crying the whole way up. Oh, we got there. We got our meat out, and she is hooked on hunting. So we've done a whole bunch of like hunting trips together, down in the South Island and to Haas, like raw hunting, and she's really capable and keen for our kids to be out in the bush doing that as well. So I 100% thought she would leave me after that. Like I was like, there's no way that making a girlfriend carry half a bloody cow 7 hours out of the bush is good news for your relationship.
Yeah, but a great test.
But somehow she's stuck with me. So yeah, she's a keeper.
What was her drive? What was her drive
man.
up that hill?
I don't know. I think her anti-drive was all my positive talk. Like she really disliked. She found it quite patronising. Maybe like,
I would. Yeah.
almost there.
What were you saying?
like,
What were you saying, Sam? What were you saying? Just
you're doing great work. Like, oh, we're almost there. We're about halfway up. Oh, have you seen this over there? She's just like,
Shush.
shut up.
Oh, she's cool.
man.
She's so cool. Oh,
Good on you,
man.
bro.
She's the man.
She's an incredible human, and I just am incredibly grateful for what she puts up with being with me.
Bro, you're the man. You're the man, bro. You're the man. Shucks. Wow. 60.
There's going to be a lot of people that are watching that are really captivated by the benefits that you get from being in the bush. How can people just living a normal day-to-day 9-to-5 sort of life, how can they sort of enjoy some of these benefits in their lives?
Well, I think the coolest thing about like particularly being in cities is there are parks and there are little pockets of native bush, and we can get those same benefits. Like for me, I know I need the bush in my day. So like even when like we live in town in Gisborne, and I just pick the kids up from school and we're straight to our local bush block, go for a walk with the kids, pick some mushrooms, some fecal pickle, some koroi, and we do some trapping and things like that. So I think the cool thing about like Tamaki Makaurau is that you guys actually have heaps of bush out here. We just drive past it a lot of the time. And so if we need that in our day, we can just go for a wander. And guess what? You got the same trees. And guess what? They're trying to be the same generous to us. They're always trying to feed us and always trying to mend us and always trying to bring us back into balance. So I think that's the thing. Like my uncle lives up here. My two sisters live up here. My uncle goes for every day in his little bush block. And he's like, that's when I do my processing time in between meetings, or when I've got to go to work, I'll go down there early in the morning if I've got a big meeting at work so I can just get my head right. And I feel like that is totally achievable in cities, even when we are disconnected from large tracts of Ngāhere as well.
Yeah. Wow. Do you think that should be a part of everyday life?
I only know for me.
Yeah.
And I know what I need.
The benefits.
Like other people might find that the ocean is really important to them, or spending time on the river is really important to them. And like other people spend time in their gardens and their marakai, and that's their place of peace. I think it's really important for me anyway to have that place of peace in my day. And wherever that is for each individual, I think that having that place of peace and that quiet time and that processing, I think that's a good practice.
Cool. Yeah. It's funny because as soon as I asked that question, for me, what aligns for me is the moana, the beach, the sea and how it meets the sky and just the sound. It just does something for me that really uplifts me and just kind of puts me in a, I don't know, place of creativity, place of like calm. That does that for me. I'm not sure if the Ngāhere does that for me, but definitely that the wana does. So it's interesting. You're right.
And I reckon everyone resonates to different spaces, and that's the strengths that we bring. If we were all the same, like, that would be pretty boring. And also it would be like not particularly conducive to having a functioning society. The cool thing about that is like if like the way you just spoke about the moana is like you can tell that love that you have for that space. And we need everyone to love the spaces that they love. Otherwise, you know, we don't have people looking after those spaces. Yeah,
that's so important. That's so important because where your heart is, you're likely to not just like benefit from it yourself, but you're also able to give back to it. And I think that's important. That's so true. Thank you for that. That's cool.
Again, I think there'll be people listening that are really drawn by your heart for conservation and sustainability within the different ecosystems. What can an average person do at home to sort of do their part in helping to conserve nature, maybe?
I reckon gardens are a big thing. Like everyone, that actually may not be true. So like everyone may not have a green space in their where they live, right? But even I've seen lots of cool things from Brazil, and they like plant out like their little balconies with trees and plants. Or like their rooftops with trees and plants. And like, I think to me, it doesn't really matter where you live. Like this indoor gardening thing is like crack up to me. I find it hilarious. Like I don't really get it, but at the same time, one of the cool things I reckon is like, you know, there's a fern that you can buy at like Mitre 10 Mega that's like called hen and chicken fern, but it's moku, like it's our like traditional pickle species. And like they grow really well indoors, and so like there's no reason why we can't bring the Ngāhere into like oftentimes we feel like the Ngāhere is like welcoming us into the Ngāhere, but like these days there's no reason why we can't welcome the Ngāhere into our homes too.
Yeah, that's cool. Because I even just recently learned about wall gardens. And you can get those sort of like pocket things and put them in. And I know one of my friends is like, you need to do that. You need to have a wall with like you can still grow your gardens in that. And I'm like, can you? You can.
Yeah, that's cool. That's real cool. And I think the other things too is like there's lots of like I looked up the other day like the council up here has like a list of conservation groups. There are like hundreds
Wow.
of local conservation groups in Tāmaki Makaurau, and they might be looking after the small gully that runs down by your place. And like the cool thing about that is like there's predator control going on. You can have traps in your backyard. You can like be part of like reforestation things. There's all sorts of this work going on. It's a fun thing to do with our kids too. You know, it's a real positive thing to do with our kids. It's like, even if it's like once a month, it's a cool thing to do and bring into our kids' lives, I reckon.
And that's
I agree.
For people who have never been hunting, where do you start?
With a mate.
with a trustworthy mate.
Like an experienced mate who's, you know how you said there's those two types?
It's interesting, eh? So like, I grew up hunting with my grandfather. My parents at the time were vegetarians. And so we kind of grew up in like a vegetarian home, and my like grandparents were like hunters and fishers. And so I spent a lot of time hunting as a real young one with my grandfather and my grandmother. And, afterwards, I had no real mentors, right? Because my grandfather passed when I was like 12. And so I had to teach myself how to hunt, which is really difficult, you know, because like when you don't have someone, you make every mistake there is to make, you know, and so that's not the way to do it.
No shortcuts.
But I think that like, you know, it's definitely... The Deer Stalkers Association run hunts courses where you can learn how to hunt. But I think the coolest thing is actually like you can learn most things in an institute or organization, but to learn our mahinga kai practices from our communities, like I think is really important. So like if we're Samoan, what is the mahinga kai practice? I don't know, because I'm not of that culture. So I don't know how to teach someone who is Samoan how to hunt in a way that is authentic to someone of Samoan descent. So to me, I'm like, let's find the mahinga kai practitioners in our communities and sit alongside them and learn, because then we're able to learn the practices that are the ways that are authentic to us.
And pass that on, eh?
Yeah.
There's that mātauranga you were talking about, being able to pass that on.
I think so, hey?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting because, you know, with our generation, like our, you know, like our parents are at that older age, most of our men who would probably the ones who hold that knowledge are no longer with us. And so we have, I have one brother-in-law who is from Samoa, and he knows all this stuff and he's like real schooled up on it. And I think this is the time for us to kind of capture some of that and then hand that down so that, you know, it's still alive and it's still held and practiced. Otherwise we'll lose that, just like with the language and everything else. So like important.
One example of that, like we, on our Eastern Field Link project, our conservation project down home, we are big fans of like wānanga. And so like we're really aware of that, right? There's that generation that kind of like didn't necessarily hand on too much knowledge just because they were like,
It's their norm.
You're not, and actually your kids aren't that interested. And so like it's so we just like, as part of our conservation effort, we're hosting wānanga. So we hosted this wānanga a little while ago on like tuna, on like eels. And we got the older generation to teach us how to catch, like taught us the whakapapa stories of tuna in those awa, taught us how to catch and harvest sustainably, taught us how to pāwhara and prepare eels for the smoker, taught us how to smoke the tuna, taught us how to share them and the tikanga around like what we do and what we give to who. And so I'm a big fan of that. Like if there's someone that holds that knowledge, like as communities, we can actually like, I was just like, I applied to like whiti ora tairāwhiti, which is like sports tairāwhiti. And it was like, so we want to do like a mahinga kai workshop. Is there any funding available to us? And they were like, yeah, we're into that. Like mahinga kai is sport, right? Like it's outdoor activity. That's good. And they were like, yeah, here's some funding. Run a wānanga. And so like as communities, I reckon we can get together and be like, there's this one person that has this knowledge, and if I'm interested, there's probably others that are like kind of interested.
Yeah.
And so if we can hold those wānanga and share that knowledge, I think that's a really good way to. I'm just speaking from like
No.
It's cool.
100%.
what we've done.
It's so cool, bro.
But even the way you explain that whole wānanga process, like you've got the stories to tell, then the processes, then who it benefits, then how you make it, then it's kinesthetic. You know, there's all the doing and the emotions that come from it, relating that all back to the history and the future. Like it's priceless learning. You don't get that kind of learning in school where it's holistic.
And we anchor it in our puku again. Like our kids are just there like, oh, this is delicious. Give me more.
And you remember it.
And everyone's like, have more. And then everyone's like, you over-salted your one. That tastes horrible. And like, you know, it's just like, it's good, eh?
Put some push lollies on it.
That's right. That's right.
Sweeten it up.
The uncle's like, don't you sugar my tuna. That's sweet enough.
Sugar.
That's so cool. Gosh, that's such a beautiful kōrero there.
It really is. I think that's such a great idea, and I really do hope that there's someone out there that like, with $1 billion, that's like, you know, we're gonna put all of these little. Because I mean, like you said, there's how many people in Auckland do you think there are that are educated in that space?
I don't
If you had to guess,
I'm not from here. I don't even know how many
In
people are in
Tairāwhiti.
Auckland.
Yeah,
about
right,
in
we need
Tairāwhiti?
In Tairāwhiti, I'm so proud of our people in
Yeah,
Tairāwhiti.
yeah.
Like we have such incredible mahinga kai practitioners, and pretty much every whānau have the hunters and the divers, and so I feel like it's pretty intact. But I'd like that to be the case in other areas. Like my parents are living in Hawke's Bay, and that's really not necessarily the case there.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a big, there's been a really solid resurgence in te reo Māori, but I feel like there could be a resurgence in, and I think it's happening, in our mahinga kai practices and also like our ecosystem literacy.
Yeah.
Our mātauranga. I think it's really happening with this Jobs for Nature thing, but I also think that we need to continue that journey.
It's
Yeah.
cool, bro.
I agree.
It's interesting. I had a conversation yesterday with, he's kind of like one of the pillars in Otara. Amazing man. And so I met up with him and his son and said, and just what you're talking about, obviously conservation, but more so not in forestry or in nature and so forth, or moana, but more the conserving the knowledge. And I love it. He was saying, because he's obsessed with building canoes, wakas, and from all Pacific, from Niue, Tonga, Samoa, Tangata Whenua. And so he builds all these little canoes, and he goes, man, if you realise the wealth of knowledge and the history around these canoes and the culture and the identity, that our people would travel, build these canoes with no steel, axes and all that kind of stuff, and all natural resources to build these canoes, and also to be able to read the stars and so forth, and no GPS, all that kind of stuff. So there's just amazing wealth of knowledge that our people have. And I think of Tangata Whenua, and like you're saying, we need more of those people that come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and say, hey, share the knowledge. And his concern was pretty much, if the knowledge is not shared, then who's going to pass on the knowledge? And if it's not shared, it's going to be lost. And so, man, I'm well with you, man. I think it's so cool that, especially in Tairāwhiti, that there's a wealth of knowledge there. There's men out there, there's mātuas there who are doing things in our wahinis and fires. But I think it's an important message. If we don't carry on or conserve the knowledge, then it could very well be lost.
And it's such a safe space for men. Like, it's what I love seeing too. Like, we have a lot of like folks that haven't hunted or like don't necessarily have people in their whānau that hunt, and it's really cool when we get them out there, and like, or even our young kids that come through our education programs. It's like, if they can shoot a deer and go home with a freezer load of meat, like our young boys, it just hits them like in the pride spot, like real good. So like our young boys, if they turn up home and they filled mum's freezer with meat, like the pride that they feel, it's like, oh, I'm a provider, I'm worthy, I'm of value, I'm looking after mum, I'm looking after my sisters. Like, as men, that just hits so, I don't know about you guys, but like for me, like that just hits like so many of our boxes. You know, my young 5-year-old, he's like, he catches a trout, and he's like, I'm like, what are you gonna do with your trout, son? He's like, oh, take it home to mama. I'm gonna feed mama. It's like awesome. And I catch another one. What are you going to do with this one, boy? He goes, oh, take it home to Nana Ray. We can drop this at Nana Ray's, eh?
Oh.
And she's 97, you know, his great grandmother, and he loves feeding her. And then he catch another one, and he's like, I'm like, boy, what are you going to do with this one? And he goes, I'm going to take it to Te Wai's house. I'm like, oh, that's his little girlfriend.
My man.
I'm going to take it to Willow's house, and that's his other, like, female girlfriend. And
He's got a few.
His wife. No, they're mates, you know what I mean? But it's like that drive on him to be a provider for the wahine in his life,
Wow.
like, it fills me with great pride that that's his, like, it's a space where he can feel proud and feel self-worth.
Yeah.
And I feel like for our tāne, like, being hunters, being fishers, being mahinga kai practitioners, being bushmen, it's like a good thing for us.
Oh man, I agree, 100%. I agree, 100%. Providers, hunters, it's just I don't know. I feel it's just a natural place to be there in terms of our tāne. Men, we're just natural hunters, and men who want to just go out there and accomplish things. And so I agree, man. I agree. That's cool. And so just saying that, because you talk about fishing and hunting and becoming fishers of men and teaching men how to fish or to be a fisherman, just in your book, bro. And I love it. Did you write this part? Or?
Yeah, all right, David.
Bro, you don't mind, brother. You don't mind reading this, because I think this is quite profound in terms of talking about fishing and being fishers of men, but also teaching our men how to fish and to hunt. You don't mind, Sam, reading this?
So we can hear the nuances of it.
The actual author, we have the actual author reading this part.
It says, I am a man that must fish, as I am a fisherman. A fish is a fish without fishing, yet a man without fishing is no man. To separate man from fisher is a greater feat than I, for fish has been man and man fisher since the very start of time. And to me, that's just about our role as men, and to me that's around the core truth that fishing holds in my life. And being able to, I feel like my grandfather was a fisher. Pretty much everyone I can imagine, and like we've got Irish fishermen stock as well, and you know, like everyone I know, like I feel like you can't separate fishing from being men, really. How many men do you know are unhappy when they're fishing?
Nah,
Bro, no.
doesn't exist, bro.
And how many men do you reckon when you're like, hey, do you want to come fishing? Like, no one says, no, I'm not keen, I'd rather go play golf.
I've had some. But yeah, for the most part, yeah, I enjoy fishing. I love fishing. Even if we don't catch any fish, all good. We can be there for hours and come back home and say, where's the fish? Oh, that's all right. We just do a detour to Newport or countdown.
So is it the fishing? Like, what is it? I'm a female, so help me understand, because this dude will go fishing, come home with nothing, and I'm like, what was the point?
Well, you know how you go to the beach and you like look at the horizon, and there's an element of that, I think. Like for me, I fish a lot of rivers, you know, and so for me, walking up a river is real meditative, and I don't have to catch a fish. But I know if I go home, my wife's going to be disappointed, you know.
Be careful.
She's my kind of girl.
But like, she loves her trout. And so, yeah, I think to me, there's two elements there, like the process of fishing and the serenity and the peacefulness of it is good for me and who I am. But going home as a provider is also something that fills me with great joy and gratitude. And I feel like when the awa gives us a kai, and a kai that the awa can provide at that time, because like I don't fish for tuna myself anymore. I'd rather eat these invasive species that are trout, you know, because that's what the awa can provide us in abundance right now. And so I'd rather not eat our things that are threatened. So for me, I'm like, I feel a great pride in the ability to feed our whānau from something that is doing the awa good as well. So for me, like that's it. It's like, that's good for me. But also, I feel this pride as a provider. I can be, a man.
Yeah.
What's a good age for young men to experience that as part of their development into adulthood? Because I think you see all these studies, right? And that's such a big part. It's such an innate part of a man, and yet it's not highlighted as an event for them to experience. What I'm hearing from you, it's a big part, massive part of a male's development. If we're just looking at it from the hunter perspective, it could contribute to them being able to find that part of them or awaken that part of them, engage with that part of them. Is there a certain age where young men should experience that?
I can only really speak from my own experience,
Yeah.
but like Rehu has been in my front pack since he was able to be not fed from his mother. So yeah, like I've had him since he was like before he could crawl. He's been fishing with us and
Wow.
trapping with us, and he learned how to crawl in the bush, and he would crawl along and pick up things. I'd have to teach him what was edible and what was not. So for me and our path, that has just been part of it. For us in our family, other guys take kids hunting at like 2 and 3, and like actually killing deer and pigs, and that is pretty intense. Like I don't know that for me personally, I don't know that I want to expose my children to that level of death that quickly. Like Rehu has been hunting with me since he was 3, but I also feel like that was my own ambition that I was putting on him rather than what he was ready for. And I think it's one of the things I do regret to some degree, is introducing him to deer hunting that quickly. So I think fishing, awesome. I think like harvesting kai out of the ngāhere, awesome. For me, hunting too early, I don't know that that's a good thing, but I know when I think we need these experiences as men, and I feel like at 12 to 14 is when we need these things, because we're kind of trying to search for our self-identity a little bit.
Yeah.
We're trying to fit into something, and if we can get our young men at 12 to 14, usually we can get them excited about it, and we can lock them in, and they can feel that sense of being a provider, and I'm a part of my whānau because I'm contributing to my whānau, and I'm a part of this entity of hunters because we are who we are. And I think there's also a time where it's a little bit late often. Like it's never too late, but suboptimal. And I think that sometimes when we're in that 17, 18, we're already distracted. There's a lot going on with girls and trying to look cool and like trying to have all the resources, and we haven't necessarily instilled the ability to get the resources at 12 to 14, so we can get distracted and try and stack bread in other ways. And so I think, like, to me, I think that 12 to 14 window is really good. I don't think like 15, 16, 17, 18 is too late, but I do think if you can get our young men out there providing in a positive way at 12 to 14, that's the window.
That's so good. And I think because I'm hearing what you are all saying about the hunting and the importance of it for our tāne, but I think that at that age, this is when our men start to test boundaries. They start to test authority. This is where mums start to take the second seat, the back seat, and dads are vital at that part of their development. And so, and these are the innate parts of a man that need to be in tune with. And in the society that we live in today, with screens and screens, like if we're not mindful of these milestones in their development, like you said, it could be too late.
And I think too, like, I'd rather our kids butt heads with their own capability and their own physicality. I'd rather our kids butt heads with the bush than be butting heads with their dad.
Wow.
Because we often find that in homes, like I did that with my dad. Try to test him, you know what I mean? Try to find that boundary. And the cool thing is that Dad used to take me surfing and take me into the bush. Well, I could test that boundary against the waves. I could test that boundary against the bush and my own physicality, rather than take that boundary setting out on my dad. And so I think that that's a real positive thing from that as well, is that we can find those boundaries in the world rather than in people.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing from that is, like, I'd rather our kids get up to mischief in the bush than in town,
Yeah.
because the consequences are very different.
Mm.
You know, if we can get into mischief in the bush, it's all good fun, as long as we all come home safe.
Yeah.
In town, we get into mischief, the consequences and the trajectory of those consequences can be a lot longer,
Yeah.
and like those repercussions can be a lot more significant. So, yeah, I think the bush is a good place to not be testing dad too much, and also the repercussions of finding those boundaries are a lot lighter.
The discovery is huge, the exploration huge, and it's not limitless, but the boundaries are a lot more wider than the ones that are at home or in town. That's cool. Thank you so much. That's such an insightful kōrero, and such a gem of a kōrero to offer our parents who are just trying their best to raise their young men and their young wahine in a society that's not cool.
Parts, you guys are pretty cool.
Oh, hey, but
Parts
no,
of it
it's
are
cool. It's cool, bro. It's what you
we
do.
didn't have that many screens when we grew up.
That's right. We didn't, did we?
We didn't have many
We
screens.
so didn't know.
We didn't have that many screens in.
We had 3 channels because this.
That shows how old you are. No, just kidding.
Oh, mate. Hey, Sam. I guess we can carry on and keep talking until the cows come home. To be honest, but bro, it's absolute pleasure, bro. Just the wealth of knowledge. I think one thing that really stands out for tonight and the corridor tonight was just the intricacies and the care and how you handle and how you uphold the nature and your love for nature and the taonga, so to speak. And so and just the respect and the humility that you carry. But brother, thank you so much. Thank you for informing us. Thank you for sharing snippets of your life, glimpses of the work that you do out in the and trapping and also conservation, but also our rangatahi. Bro, just a wealth of knowledge, and just thank you, bro. For me personally, just what a cool kōrero, bro. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me on, and like the work that you guys do in keeping our people well and holding these platforms where like conversation, like I've been following your guys' podcast for a while, and it's just like brings light and perspective into my life. So thank you very much for the space you hold for our people and the conversations around what is really important to move our people in positive directions. So you guys are epic. Thank you for inviting me up to the big smoke for a conversation.
Man, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions.
Cool.
Sorry. Any tips on getting kina? Because some of us, we love kinas, bro, and like how?
So you notice that all my conversation today has been around the bush and the rivers. I'm not, like, I flap around on the surface in the ocean. So like I'm like not a great diver. However, when you come to Tairāwhiti, just sing out because we got some spots. But like yeah, there's some, yeah, just like a walk a long way is my yarn on that. Like when I was a kid, like at home, like you could get like pau in like knee deep water. You could get crayfish in like waist deep water. It's just super normal, you know. But like now with so many people, and some people that don't really like understand what the reefs can give us, I think we just need to walk further and take less. But yeah, there's places we just gotta walk further.
Yeah, cool.
Wow.
That's cool.
Just gotta know how to swim. That's all. Just
Those pieces of heaven, eh? You gotta find them. That's cool.
Yeah, I reckon. But I'm not an ocean guy, so I apologise for my
no,
inadequacies.
that's
Eh?
Well, I do have another one for you then. If we are going to go hunting, is there what maybe a couple of things? If someone's really interested in it, they've gone once and they really enjoyed it. What's a couple of things that's probably worth investing in first?
Yeah, 100%. So there's a couple of like items of kit that I think are really important. I think that looking after our feet is really important. So like good boots.
Colourful socks.
I got colourful socks. This is my town outfit.
You need to show your socks, man. They look cool as.
They are. Yeah, dude.
I like you.
Bright socks for town. Shy now. But yeah, I reckon you got to look after your feet, eh? So like good pair of boots, 100%. and I reckon a good knife. Simple as that. If we've got a good pair of boots, a good knife, and a rifle, we can hunt in a jersey or a hoodie, all good. Like, we don't have to spin the world to look like Mr. Camouflage Man. You know, we don't have to. Some guys that I know turning up for their second hunt will drop like $5 or $6 grand on camouflage hunting gear, and I'm like,
Ooh.
see?
Why?
you
Why
gotta
do we waste
shoot
that
a
money?
lot of deer to pay for that.
Oh man.
But yeah, like literally, good boots, good knife, rifle.
Any kind of rifle specifically? Again,
Yeah, so I go for larger caliber too, particularly for new hunters. So like, I always like to. Typically, like new hunters won't place their shots as well as they could, and that is a process of learning. And so I always go for a rifle that's going to knock that deer over right there, even if the shot's a little off. So for me, I roll with 308 or a 7mm remag. Other guys use 270, but those bigger calibers, for a new hunter, I wouldn't be kicking around with a 222 or a 223, because that has the potential to have a sub-lethal shot on a deer, and I don't think that new hunters want to go through the emotional turmoil of, oh, I made a poor shot, oh, I can't find my deer, oh, it's injured and running around. That's not how we want to introduce people to hunting. We want people to be like, drill that thing. You know, like that animal was dispatched humanely, the meat's still good, and it dropped right there, so I don't have to find it and navigate through the bush to be able to find it. So yeah, big calibers for new hunters.
yeah.
Ooh, man.
That's cool. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I really enjoyed the kōrero. I think you're very passionate. Gosh, like I said earlier, my knowledge of ngāhere is very limited. I probably don't spend as much time as I should. But after our kōrero today, you've made it look like a piece of heaven that I need to be engaged with more. And I love that you've shared that. You're so genuine as well. Gosh, from the minute you came in, you're like this real calm, you have this real beautiful calm ardor about you, and you're very authentic. And just as you talk about nature, one of the lines in your book that I really loved was the one that I shared with you earlier, was you said that all the solutions and answers you're looking for in life can be found in the bush.
That's kind of how it is for me. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like other people, like you might have all the answers you need in the ocean, but yeah, the bush has always been that.
Yeah. I think the bush might be, the ngāhere might be a lot more resourceful than the ocean, but because you've got the shade, you've got all of that. But when you shared that, I was like, I was quite intrigued by that line. But your kōrero tonight has been, you've taken your learnings in the ngāhere and you've applied it to life. And you've applied it to how we can raise our young men, how we can help our rangatahi, how we can preserve that mātauranga, you know, in the context of Māori, in the context of our Indigenous people. You've highlighted all of these things that we can apply in this outside of the ngāhere. And there's so many gems that you shared tonight. And I could be here for another 4 hours going through all these different pathways of your wisdom. You have so much wisdom, and I thank you so much for writing this book, preserving your knowledge and your experience. And it's not just your experience in your lifetime, it comes back from your dad and your granddad, and that's such a gift to leave, not just your children, but our children and our children's children, and the hope is that they pick this up and they read it. So thank you for doing that. I can't imagine the process of writing a book. I don't think we got into that. We've had a couple of authors on this podcast, and it's a process, eh?
It is, but I'm also like people were always cracking up because they're like, "Did you get a ghostwriter?" And I was like, even though I speak terribly, I can actually write a little bit.
That's good, man.
But I'm just real lucky. I got like real good publishers wrapped around me. I couldn't do it if I had to self-publish it. So yeah, it's me.
Yeah, and they believe in you. They believe in your life's work, and they believe that this could help generations to come. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for coming here tonight and just sharing your awesome wisdom with us. Really appreciate the kōrero this evening.
Oh, that's Sam.
Thank you. I'm just lucky to have folks that open doors for me as a young person that needed doors opened, and I'm just real grateful for those that walked the hills before me and decided to pass things on. So it's if we can do that, it's just good.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
And thank you for being the conservationist that is conserving the wealth of knowledge that you have and passing it down to our people. So appreciate it, man. Thank you. But Sam, we always give a gift to our guests. Always do a bit of a caricature, a cartoon of how we envision them to be. So, brother, on behalf of the Mandate team, this is for you, brother.
That is just pretty accurate, to be fair. That's gold. Well done.
Oh man,
Who's the artist?
It's me, but yeah.
No, that is epic.
Oh,
That's going on the
man.
mantelpiece for sure.
Awesome, bro. No, thank you, man. Thank you for your time, bro. Appreciate it.
Cool hat.
Appreciate it, man. But Sam, we always ask our guests, is there anyone that you can think of that would be ideal or perfect to come on the podcast? You need to have this person.
Who's ideal to come on the podcast? Hang on, I'll get there in a second. I reckon there's a guy, Morehu Piwhairangi, at home, and he is the most positive, incredible example of a man, and he's super humble, and he does so much for our community. And Morehu is an absolute shining example of what a man is to me, and he's also navigating some really big issues for our community. He's a community man. He holds heaps of our stories, and he's always turning up for our community and moving our community forward. I'd love to see, if you can and he doesn't really like the spotlight, so if you can wrangle him onto this podcast, he would have some really interesting whakaaro.
Oh,
Wow.
awesome. What do you? Oh, awesome. Awesome, bro. No, we'll definitely, if you got, I don't know, if you got some, in terms of contacting him, that'd be cool. Be awesome, bro.
Might have to come out to Tairāwhiti and capture him.
Yeah, for sure. And next time you're down home, sing out. Let's
We
go
will.
bush.
Oh, we will.
Let's
Yes.
go
Sure
for a
will.
hunt.
Yeah.
Let's go
We
for a
will,
fish.
man.
We're gonna,
Missions
We'll
on.
bring a camera or two.
We'll bring a camera. Yeah, we'll film it. That'd be
and
awesome,
you guys
bro.
got to teach these guys how to carry an 80-kilo cow up.
the hind legs.
7 hours on the first stage.
And Sam will see me crying. Crying already. Grown men crying. Oh, my gosh.
No,
I think you guys will smash it and teach me a few things these days.
whatever. But it'd be cool to see you in your element. I reckon that'd be super cool.
100%.
Rather than super out of my element.
Yeah, it'd be cool to capture that too. See you in your element, and so and maybe even take the
Oh, we
boys.
do it. We gotta do
take
it,
the
man.
boys.
Well, no, you wouldn't
Yeah.
have to do it.
We gotta
We'll have to
do
make a
this.
trip,
We gotta
bro.
do it, man. We'll hit you up. Definitely hit you up.
How
Sam.
much notice do we have to give you?
Oh, yeah, these days it's like a couple of months, please.
A couple of months? Okay, cool. I think that'll be enough time to plan it.
That'll be awesome, man.
Summer,
Yeah.
winter?
Oh, whenever. Depends how cold you want to get.
Because
Summer.
coming into summer.
Early
Summer?
next year.
Yeah, hard
Okay.
out. Summer's good.
Yeah.
Like October till June is our trout fishing season. So if you want to catch trout too,
Oh.
we're on.
Man.
You might have the whole whānau.
Yo,
And the deer are
bring the kids.
fat.
Legit.
Like summer fat deer is like the best. Like in winter they get a little skinny. So yeah, I reckon summertime's on.
Okay, and you're usually available around that time?
Yeah, just give me a little notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
We will. This
we
is
will.
not a
No, we
might
will.
or just
No, we
thinking
will.
about it.
We will
This
hit
is
you up.
I usually go to come to Tairāwhiti maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So, yeah, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
love to have you, and we'd love to have you out on the project too. It'd be cool.
Oh, awesome. That'd be cool. Now, the Mandate crew would definitely be there, man. Appreciate it, Sam. But Sam, we always give our guests the last words of encouragement to the viewers and the listeners. Anything you want to say?
No pressure. No. No. My biggest thing is just like I am stoked when we find and identify those ones that others have identified as mischief in our communities, and we find those ones. I just like to think of them as having lots of energy, and if we can you give them to me? Send them to us in the bush. Give us those ones with lots of energy, and they will thrive in the bush. Yeah, send them our way.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.
I'm going to
Thank
say
you.
something
Thank you.
afterwards.
But no, thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. But if you haven't got the book already, please, Sam the Trap Man, Cracking Yarns and Tall Tales from the Bush, please go out and buy the book, support the brother, and I can guarantee you, What an awesome read as well, and awesome tales and awesome stories. But once again, please don't forget to subscribe. Look forward to your well thought out comments, and as usual, team,
Refine.
Unlock.
and take charge. Mandate.